Well, now we want to talk about the lengthy cast list that was released for the Knives Out 3 sequel, which is called Wake Up Dead Man. It's obviously starring Daniel Craig. It's also starring Josh O'Connor, who you probably recently recognized from Challengers, Jeremy Renner, Andrew Scott, who I know from Sherlock, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, Kaylee Spaney, who was just in the Civil War movie, Mila Kunis, Josh Brolin, and Daryl McCormick, who you all might know from Peaky Blinders. And Thomas Hayden Church, who I know obviously from Spider-Man 3.
And Tombstone.
And No Way Home.
Tombstone.
He was in Tombstone, huh? I don't remember him in Tombstone. That's funny. Who did he play?
It was a really early role. Like when Doc Holliday first went into or was in that, like the bar.
Right.
But yeah, anyways.
Neat. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, this is a stacked casting. I mean, you know, the last two have been like, that's what I love about these like detective mystery movies where you focus on the detective and then have a stacked cast around him. Like one of the first ones I had seen in the modern day was Murder on the Orient Express, and that's done so well, and that has a stacked cast. And I don't know, it's always fun. You never know who's going to be the killer, and I think I can guess like who's playing like certain roles. I'm gonna theorize here.
You would think, but except maybe for Glass Onion, but like for a lot of the movies, like you like the people that you think that they would be playing, they usually subvert it, and it's really interesting seeing them in those roles. Yeah. Like most specifically, Chris Evans. You know, you don't traditionally see him in that role.
In a sense, because he has played villains. Like he does do that. He just hasn't done it recently, you know? And I think that was the subversion where you were like, oh, he's not going to play another villain after this long.
Right.
But yeah. I would
say with Edward Norton, he usually ends up playing the villain.
It's funny. People are theorizing that like the first villain was Chris Evans and then the second was Ed Norton. So they're like, oh, well, another Avenger's going to play the villain, which is Jeremy Renner. Yeah, I was like, it could be.
Could be.
But I think, so the two characters I'm pretty positive on, like I think it's very possible we see Glenn Close as Daniel Craig's mother. I think that's a huge possibility. And then I think I don't remember who played you know how there's always like a kind of sidekick innocent character who follows Daniel Craig around. Like Ana de Armas was the first movie. Who was the second movie? Do you remember?
Janelle Monáe.
Okay, I think it's going to be Kaylee Spaney this time. She seems like the perfect fit for that role.
Yeah. And if it's not her, then even though I don't know Josh O'Connor because I haven't seen Challengers, I could see him or Mila Kunis potentially.
I could also see, I could see Mila Kunis, but I could also see like Kerry Washington doing that.
I could see that too.
Yeah. No, I think this is a really talented cast.
Yeah, I think the cast is great. Honestly,
I'm pretty positive Andrew Scott is not going to be the villain in this because he has played like one of the best villains I've ever seen, and I think you would kind of be like people would expect that, you know.
Yes, but in recent years he has played more of like a good guy. So. But yes, I think out of all of them, the 2 or 3 people that you would think are the villain is Andrew Scott, Josh Brolin, or Thomas Hayden Church. But who knows? I don't want to be sexist. Maybe it's Glenn Close. Maybe it's Kaylee Spaney. Like here's a great thing.
Sure.
I just rewatched Glass Onion very recently.
Oh, nice.
And that whole movie is such a well-crafted, like even the concept of a glass onion was of A Glass Onion is the script, and that whole movie is a subversion on the whodunit mystery or whodunit movie. And wouldn't it be a subversion for the Knives Out franchise to have usually have a younger female character?
I would like them to switch it up this time around.
That is helping Benoit Blanc.
Daniel Craig.
So what if it turned out to be Kaylee Spaney
usually as the villain, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
that would be cool if it was Kaylee Spaney as the villain. I wouldn't see it coming, honestly, because she has a very innocent face,
Yes.
Yeah.
So it, I don't know, but it would be interesting to see Jeremy Renner in a villain role of sort.
Yeah, because I think he would come off incredibly likable in this movie. And I think you could really turn your head on that. But yeah, I don't know. I really do think any of these actors I think could kill it in a really good person role or a really bad person role.
Yeah. And I just like the idea of seeing all these actors that I don't think I've really seen them interact with each other before in this movie. And Ryan Johnson's always putting together such a great cast of characters, and ever since the first movie came out, I feel like everybody's like, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, of course.
So
that's the most fun thing you can do, because it's not like it requires a ton of action. You're doing true acting, and it's an ensemble piece. Everyone's important to the story.
Right.
I think that's what's so exciting for them.
Right. And the way that he treats characters in the Knives Out movies, just going back to Glass Onion, because I saw it so recently, you have conflict between Daniel Craig's character and Edward Norton, and his you have conflict not only with the group and Edward Norton that we find out over time, but we also have the conflict with them and then Janelle Monáe's character, which then we have the conflict with Janelle Monáe's twin sister character with the group, and then her with Edward Norton. And so there's all these complex layers and they have their own very specific inter conflicts with the other group members, and they're just written so, I don't want to say realistically, but they've written these characters to be a certain way, and then they write them to do exactly what that person would do. They don't betray. I don't think they necessarily betray any of the motives, because some of the characters do things that you're like, well, that was really shitty thing to do, but of course that's what they would do or say. So I think that just as an actor, it'd be rich to
because you could play it in a kind of double way, right, where you the viewers guessing really whether you're good or bad the entire time.
But just the different ranges of well, with this character I have you're just saying all the dynamics that are there. Yeah. I have to talk to Edward Norton's character in a certain way, where I have to seem nice, but I also have this thing going on, but I can't talk too much about it because
it'll be revealed
people
later, and
but I can then have this really antagonistic role towards this other person. It's just interesting.
I hope he keeps making these. I hope it doesn't stop at 3, to be honest. And what's sad is that I love Ryan Johnson. I love what he did with episode 8. But if he just kept making Benoit Blanc movies and he never went back to Star Wars, I could be okay with that. These are just so fun, and I'm just so in. They just have so much character, and the stories are so rich. I don't know. I'm really could have these for a long time.
And not to mention that all of these movie titles are just so intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I heard Glass Onion for the first time, I didn't really know what to think. And it was baked into the story, and it was so great. And now Wake Up Dead Man, I think there's like an implied, like there's a thing that you think of immediately, which is like somebody's not dead, but I can't imagine that it would be just that. Like there's probably something way more complex going on.
I'm sure there is, but I have no idea what that even could be.
Yeah, and I mean the teaser when you do it, like when you watch it, like you see the glass onion, you see, and then when it's Wake Up Dead Man, it literally shows a coffin. So somebody is dead.
Well, I mean, usually they are, you know. Yeah,
we know that. In the murder mystery movie, somebody is dead.
Right. I think two things I still want to bring up. One, I was a little surprised we're not getting another Hugh Grant appearance, considering he popped in the last one as his husband. I was like, oh, it would have been nice to like see him again, but that's fine.
Yeah, we don't really need it.
We don't need it, but it's nice to see a little bit of his like personal life.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you saw, but the picture, like I think came out today as we're recording.
Yeah.
Of like the first image of Daniel Craig on set.
Yeah.
He's got some long hair. It's quite long. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think he's in a different kind of state of mind for this, or do you think he just grew it out just cause? Because he looked like he had a little bit of like overgrown stubble too. You know.
I don't know. I mean.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's like, oh wow, like that might take a second, but but at the same time, like it was so fascinating to get the character, some character insight into his character in Glass Onion, which we didn't really have in the first movie.
No, we didn't.
And I'm kind of hoping we get more of that. And I'm hoping
I don't want too much though, you know?
Sure, like, not too much. Like he still has to play that main, you know, detective investigator role.
Right.
But I do like when his, like part of the whole thing with like Glass Onion was like he was just itching for like this thing to do because he was in lockdown. And I want something like that where like we get to learn more of like the insight into him.
Right.
So maybe this ties into it. Maybe he got even more famous. I don't know.
I think like why I'm worried about like going too much into like his life is because that's what happened like after Murder on the Orient Express. The next movie after that was Death on the Nile. And the first movie didn't really focus on his personal life like at all, just like Knives Out, you know? And then the second one, he, you know, it kind of went into him like during the war and World War II.
Who's
like the main, I don't remember the main character's like name, but like the detective of that story. Like you follow like the detective like Benoit Blanc throughout all these movies.
Okay.
And they just came out with A Haunting in Venice last year, which is the third one. But basically like in the second one, they have his best friend be like an integral like part of like the murder plot, and like I said, they go into him like before the movies, like while he was in the war and how he got his scar, and like they go into him kind of like falling in love in that movie, and you're like,
oh, so it was Kenneth Branagh who was the director.
Yeah, he's the director and he stars in it.
Yeah.
So. Like like I said, the first one is an amazing movie, but Death on the Nile focused too much on the detective himself, where it didn't. I think they lost track of the story in a sense, you know.
Yeah, and I think potentially, like I could see somebody's like does like a Saw sort of thing or like a Sherlock sort of thing where it's like, well, now I'm gonna put you in a part of my murder mystery, Benoit, or you know, like and hopefully it wouldn't be like I have a personal vengeance or whatever. Because I think at that point, like you start to get into like a Moriarty Sherlock sort of thing, and it turns into a different kind of movie.
Which is like I like the Moriarty Sherlock thing, but it's not what you come to these movies for. You know?
Yeah, you come to like find the mystery and have Benoit Blanc be like really good at what he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, yes, I do want more like insight. I want more.
Right.
Maybe not even more. I just want to see it.
See a little bit.
See a little bit. Expand upon it a little bit. But
and
no,
then,
you know,
right. And then do the same thing in the next movie, and then in the next one, you know, just keep a little bit expanding. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited. I think this one's coming out 2025, like late 2025. So we got some time to wait, but I cannot wait for this one. So
yeah,
yeah.
Me either.